Two deadly police-involved shootings in two separate cities, raising some pretty serious questions about when and if it is appropriate to release video from such incidents. In Tulsa, for example, the videotape from a police-involved shooting almost immediately became public. It shows officers fatally shooting Terrence Crutcher after they say he ignored their commands. Now, the officer who shot Crutcher is now she's been charged with felony murder. And protests in Tulsa have actually remained calm because of the release of the video. The same cannot be said for the city of Charlotte. Violent protests there erupting after police refused to release the video. They still refuse to release it. The fatal shooting of this man, Keith Scott. Let's bring in our legal panel. Fred Tisi is a former federal prosecutor. Brian Claypool is a criminal defense attorney. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Now the State Bureau of Investigation has stepped in, and they've taken this case away from Chief Putney. Is that perhaps is one of the reasons, perhaps because he refuses to be transparent, he refuses to release the dash cam and the body cam videotapes?
Yeah, Greg, absolutely. I think what the state is doing is they're trying to level the playing field, because oftentimes in investigations of police shootings, it's not really a search for the truth. Because think about it, Greg, you've got police officers investigating police officers, their own colleagues. So many times they go to the scene and they're actually trying to find evidence to justify the shooting rather than searching for the truth. Now that the State Bureau of Investigation is getting involved, I hope that they will mandate that this video gets released, right, because it will bring clarity to the shooting as opposed to propagating uncertainty.
Fred, Chief Putney said yesterday, I'm not going to release this video unless there's a compelling reason. Well, my goodness, isn't averting violent and deadly demonstrations and protests a compelling reason?
Well, I guess you could spin it that way if you wanted to, and as much respect as I have for Brian, I find his comment offensive.
Fred.
Well, no, it's not logic. We don't let mob mentalities dictate how we do things. We have rules of law, and we have practices, and we have procedures in this case. Now, ultimately, I think it's a good idea for the state's Bureau of Investigation to step in, because it removes the appearance of impropriety, and it says to the citizens and the people of the state of North Carolina that we're going to look at this kind of in an even-handed way. But these tapes are evidence, and there's a lot of other parts. They're just one piece. There's eyewitness accounts. There's forensic evidence. There's a lot of things that go into it. I mean, it's easy to look at it in a vacuum and anecdotally say, well, in Tulsa they released a video and there were no riots, and in Charlotte they didn't and there were. I don't see the correlation.
Old saying, sunshine is the best disinfectant. In other words, be straightforward and release information and transparent. But Brian, I want to ask you this, because we were just relaying to our viewers the breaking news. The wife of Mr. Scott, the alleged victim in this case, had taken her own videotape as she approached the car where her husband was. Now, it doesn't show the shooting itself, and it doesn't show a gun. But it does tell us a lot about the events that were surrounding it. Isn't that now all the more reason why the government needs to release its videotapes?
That's a great point, Greg. A lot of people are not focusing on what led to the police department's attempted apprehension of Keith Scott. In other words, he's just sitting in his car waiting for his son. Much like, remember, Walter Scott was shot in the back. He had I think a tail light that was broken. Freddie Gray was on a bike. Terrence Crutcher, his car broke down. You've got 4 shootings of black men who hadn't even committed a crime. These were not bank robbers. They hadn't kidnapped anybody. You had a wife show up at the scene saying, "Don't shoot, don't shoot." Why are these officers on him like rabid wolves? Proper police protocol would have been to back up, take a position of cover, engage the suspect, give him a chance to understand what's unfolding, and then tell him to drop whatever is in his hands.
Well, we'll wait and see. And Fred, I'm sorry I didn't give you more time. We've had some breaking news covering this very story. But thank you both, Fred Tisi, Brian Claypool.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, Greg.